What's up, guys? I just want to show you real quick how you can run Node scripts automatically, programmatically from cron jobs. It's pretty straightforward. So to get started, I just created a test file, and what that file does is it writes a file just so we can tell that our cron job was running properly. So it's called test.js, uses the fs module, and it just writes a file, and the file's name is going to be a random set of digits, and the content is going to be hey there. So let's save this, let's run it and make sure it works. So node test.js says it works, and you can see our files right there. So I'm going to delete that. Okay, so our file works correctly. It writes a file. So now we want to turn this into a cron job that runs automatically every interval, every specified interval period of time. So the proper way to do that is to use the cron tab. So if we do cron tab -e, it'll open up this file for us, and we can put our cron job commands in here. Now the first thing we need to do is come up with our cron job command, and since the cron job file, we don't necessarily know where that is, so we need to use absolute paths with our commands. We can't just do node test because we're not going to necessarily be in this folder when we run it. So let's use some absolute paths. So node is an alias that points to an actual file, so we want to find what our alias is, and everyone's going to be different. I use the NVM node version manager, so I have all these different ones installed, but if I go to my root directory and I do find -name and then I just put the word node, it should bring up a bunch of things. So yeah, I have all these instances of node. I have 5, so let's use node 6.2.2, so that is the path. And then let's go back into our public folder. So as far as our command goes, we should be able to do something like this. And that works. Okay, cool. So we have an absolute reference to our node runtime, but we need an absolute reference to our test.js file as well. So let's do public. So this should, now we have 2 absolute path references, and that works as well. You can see the 2 outputs. So I'm going to delete these for now. Okay, so we have our command. It seems to work pretty well. Let's turn that into a cron job. So cron tab -e. Now the interval uses a strange syntax. I would just suggest Googling it, but essentially this is set up to run every minute. You can do them so they run every day at 3 p.m. or every hour or something. It gets pretty granular, but I would just Google that. I don't know that off the top of my head. But so you give it the interval and then you pass the command, and that's the command we just came up with here. And then as soon as I save this, because I uncommented that line, it will be in effect. So I'm going to just close that, and I just saved it. And that should work correctly. But again, it runs every minute, so let's just wait a second here and see if it works. So what I'm expecting is those output files to start showing up. Okay, so one just showed up right here, and basically it looks like it's working correctly. Every minute it's just going to run this test file, and we can see that it ran because the output's being written here. So, cron jobs are good for any sort of automated thing, maybe hourly backups or something, or monthly charges, or I don't know. It's all different sorts of things you could use cron jobs for. But that is how you run a Node script automatically using a cron job.